send the link across for us to join directly from YouTube. We are going live now on YouTube. We are streaming it live now. It will take a couple of seconds. Yes, I think this has been settled. The link across for us to join directly. All right. So let us share the link to us so we can share to others to watch live on Zoom. I keep mentioning Zoom. Sorry, my apologies. To watch us live on YouTube. So like I said, today's section will be about the generic site safety induction. And we discussed about the purpose of this to serve as a form of reminder to most of us who are acquainted with this knowledge already, and to also serve as a form of improvement in competency level to those who are just starting, and to serve as a training to those who are still trying to the details is beyond just a site safety induction, because it actually involves some formal basic health and safety trainings, which forms part of the induction process. I can see one of my leaders on the call, Mr. Oluwole Oluwa. Thank you for joining. Mr. Aziz Ogudiro, thanks for having your time to join us today. So let's go straight to today's section. Please kindly confirm in the comment section if you can see my screen. Please kindly confirm in the comment section if you can see my screen. Kindly type yes, 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 yes if you can see my screen. Okay, I want to be sure that I'm not the only one here. All right, thanks so much for the feedback. Thanks so much for the comment. Feedback is always very important to keep the section running. So we're talking about the generic site safety inductions for site and majorly for sites, and also in some cases for process facilities, because there are some aspects of site safety inductions that are generic to both fields. So it can be applied, some can be applied to both process project sites, construction site, and also process facilities. So this training, like we used to say, this training and other trainings that we've been conducting for us, the enlightenment sections is being sponsored by a Code Safety Consult. When you need it for your Facebook safety training needs, for your in-company safety training needs, virtual, physical, in-company, whatever it is, and general safety consultancy. For Code Safety Consults, these are some of our services that we render. Health and safety trainings, best book trainings, establishing OSH management system for organizations, helps in site safety inspections and audit, and giving a good report that helps to improve on the safety management systems to detect loopholes, challenges, and we are solution focused and solution oriented. We help in establishing safety program planning and implementation depending on the area of safety that an organization needs to address. So we develop programs that would help in fostering the implementation of improving the OSH system based on these premises. And we also help in HSE manpower supply for projects, supervisions, and the likes. We also help in home safety inspection and guidance. In recent times, we've been having, even before the viral accident happened, so many times we've been having calls on home safety inspections. We're having concerning hotels. There was a time, sometime last 2 months ago, I was called by a colleague to assist him to carry out a site safety inspection of a particular hotel. What happened? Please let us mute ourselves. Please let us mute. It's important that we mute. Please, we need this person to mute. The distraction is not okay. Let me just take the button out. So, okay, I think it's better this way. So what happened was that there this it's a residential area, and they have a facility management system in place, but no safety management system. So this particular one of their residents, his brother who lives with him, was swimming. The guy is a good swimmer. He swims a lot. He dives and all those skills. You know, in safety when we talk about overcompetence, it's also part of issue when someone feel competent, confident to carry out hazardous or high-risk job. So this guy in particular decided, please let us switch off our cameras. Please let us stop our videos. So this guy decided to show stunts. Yeah, it was good. Unlike the other one that we saw, where the guy was showing stunt and hit his head on the pavement. This was showing stunt, was training his colleagues, his friends, how to swim. Then at a particular point in time, the friends went to sit down, but he was still swimming. Then to cut the whole story short, based on after we did our investigation, one of the friends said that he observed that it got to a time the guy placed his head on the pavement, you know, the edge of the swimming pool. The guy placed his head there, like was trying to rest. They just observed like normal resting, placed his head there, then continue to swim. And they were like, he's a good swimmer. Then after some time, they observed that he was floating. He was just floating, and they thought that it's still part of the skills. Maybe he's just trying to know there's a kind of swim that you float on the water. He was trying to float. Then one of their friends observed that it wasn't moving. It was just on the spot. And it was more like the water was the one moving the guy around. Then immediately called the attention of his friends and they rushed. And before they could do anything, the guy has already drowned. This is an elderly person who knows how to swim. An elderly person who knows how to swim, not a little child who does not know how to swim. That is why putting safety systems in place for every aspect of life is very important. Putting aside our workplace, home is very hazardous. Some people put expensive tiles in their house, and it's the tiles that even kills them. So many things happen. At the end of the day, the guy died, and the hotel now decided to look at their facility and see how they can put safety in place. Well, we did our own recommendation, and we hope that they do a good follow-up on it, because sometimes people see safety as being expensive, but when an accident happens, then they know that safety is not really expensive, but the consequences of not putting safety in place is what is expensive. I can see one of our leaders on the call, Engineer Tukul Lawal. Thank you for joining us on this section. We appreciate your presence, sir. Thanks so much for being part of today's enlightenment section. Thanks so much.
It's a great pleasure, sir.
Thanks so much, sir. So the basic objective of today's enlightenment section is just to familiarize ourselves with safety procedures, standard and rules and regulations. Like we said, it's about safety induction. How do we as professionals, like we said, most of us, we are upcoming, some of us are experts in the field. Serve as a reminder, what are those things we need to look out for when carrying out safety inductions? We do safety inductions within 5 minutes. I can see one of my leaders here. He's always troubling me that why is it I keep mentioning his name, I keep making him telling people about him. Yeah, I'll keep telling him about him because he's the one who actually trained me basically in health and safety, who started my career directly when it comes to health and safety, and that's Mr. Ayope Oluwa. And I remember then when he started out the safety induction for workers, Mr. Ayope Oluwa, we give detailed information to whoever is in. And we say, sir, this is not training, no, this is induction. No. You will tell us that we do not understand. Safety induction is more like a training for those that are just coming in, because someone who does not know anything about the site, who does not know anything about the hazards, about our procedures, we want to take him through the process. So it's beyond just a 5 minute, a 2 minute, a 3 minute stop. It's something that you need to scrutinize the person to be sure that the person will say, this person actually trained me for this particular job. That's why some organizations, they wait for workers to be like 5, 10, 15 to put them together because of time management. So we want to familiarize ourselves with the basic things we need to talk about based on site safety procedures, standard rules and regulations to establish a safety culture which will help to prevent accident. That is the basic goal. Yes, zero accident. That's the basic goal, to prevent accident in the workplace. To ensure all the employees have a clear understanding. Please let us Note that clear understanding is beyond just telling them about, just telling them about the muster point, just telling them about how to collect, how to receive permit to work. It's beyond just telling them where the curtain is, or where the toilet is, or where the bathroom is, or the people used to use. There are so many informations we need to embed when giving site safety induction. And I promised after the training section, this particular slide that contains the site safety induction will be shared across through our platform, through our WhatsApp platforms, and through we are going to upload it on Google Drive, and we'll send the link to those who registered for this training. And I'm very sure that everybody who is there actually registered for this training. Shows management commitment towards all the employees. We need to use it as a platform to show those coming in, those who want to induct, on the commitment of the management based on safety, and also to ensure specific site safety issues are addressed immediately. Induction, like we said, are given at various levels. They are what we call reinduction. Reinduction can come as a result of an accident or a violation of safety rules. And induction can also come as a result. Induction can also come as a result of a major accident, injury that occurred, or after a particular period of time. After some changes can lead to new induction. After a particular period of time, maybe after 6 months, you reinduct your workers. So that is not part of what is in this slide, but I just remembered and I said I should share it also. So part of what should be in our site safety induction presentation should be talking about our policy, talking about the safety policy of the organization. You should have that here, that you can copy it out and put it here on the slide. Talk about your management commitment to health and safety, the procedures that are put in place, their commitment, and everything that has to do that is coming directly from the management, from the top management, from the CEO, for the managing director. This will give the workers you are inducting a clear understanding that yes, the CEO is also involved in the health and safety, and we need to take this safety seriously. They would also talk about the welfare policy. So you add your welfare policies here after talking about the safety policy. So welfare, because workers want to be in a place where they feel safe, where they feel that yeah, there's a duty of care. So this welfare policy, we tell the workers that okay, the company is doing this for you, is doing this for you, is concerned about this, your welfare. So it will also reignite the interest of the worker to be committed to the work. Like we used to say, safety is not only about preventing accident. Yes, it basically prevent accident, but also to ensure business sustainability, to ensure that workers are highly productive. They show their full commitment to the work. They are fully engaged in the work with the work they are doing, and we can show that through expressing that through our welfare policy, so that they'll be committed to their work and they'll be more productive. So that talks about this area where you put. Then the next one is your environmental policy. You talk about your environmental policy. What are the policies you have put in place based on the environment? Limitation of waste, how you, for example, you inspect and maintain your equipment to prevent emission of excess CO2. Anything that addresses the environment at large, spills and the likes, when it comes to operations, what are those environmental effects, aspect and effect that your work has on the environment and the environment has on your work? Is a two-way thing, and that will be addressed from your environmental policy. So if you have an environmental policy in your organization, definitely you add it here. And if you do not have, this slide tells you that there are extra miles you need to go to assist and support your organization wherever we work. Then from there, please, we make a couple of persons admin. Please let us help to admit people in so that I can focus on the training section. So part of those things we had in our site safety inspection presentation is to have these basic rules, site rules, informing them about the site rules that are the basic rules that has to do with you working on this site. And you put sample pictures, maybe a picture of the site. You should have a good picture of your site or whatever, or a particular work going on, or a particular say practice. Just add the picture here. This particular file is in PowerPoint format. So and I'm going to make it available. So just I edit it and put that here. So the site rules can include, but not limited to, tampering with safety inspections is prohibited, informing them that it's equipment that has to do with safety needs. There was time that we spoke about the bow tie. One of these days, I'm going to, maybe before the year runs out, let's see how it goes. We are trying to have a training that we are trying to look at 3 to 4 risk management techniques and talk about it. And one of them is bow tie. And I say, if you watch one of my videos on my YouTube channel, I explain the bow tie. It's a combination of the poultry and the inventory. So talking about the inventory is after there's an event, after there's a release, there's an accident, to prevent the escalation of that accident. That is what the inventory addresses. So there are some safety equipment that are required. Even at poultry, there are also some safety equipment that are required that are in place in order to prevent an accident from happening and also to prevent the escalation. You have it on your side. Then you train your workers, you tell them, you inform them that, see, you do not tamper with this equipment because they have their purpose. They have their purpose, and we don't want it to not to function whenever they are needed. I don't want to go deep into functionality and every other aspect that has to do with the use of all these site safety equipment. Please, I might not send it to your email, but I said I've already addressed it. I'm going to send the material through our WhatsApp platforms and also through the email you used to register. If you register for this training, it will automatically pop up. I'm very sure you receive the notification on your, via email for you to be part of this training. So we are going to try our best to send it through that platform. So also talk about abusive or aggressive behavior in the workplace is also prohibited. When it comes to behavioral-based safety, there's what we call peer group and influence. When workers work together, there's a part of nature that wants people to behave in a particular way with themselves. People have personalities, but no matter your personality, no matter your upbringing, your background, there are policies that should address aggressive behaviors, and that is part of the behavioral-based safety programs that you put in place to ensure that there are systems in place, there are procedures in place to prohibit abusive and aggressive behavior in the workplace. Willful damage to or misuse of facilities in the job site is also prohibited. Smoking on site is also prohibited. There should be a smoking area, a smoking spot where you do all your smoking. Work permit system must be followed. Always wear PPE when entering the construction site. Follow the approved method statement and risk assessment at all times. These are the site rules. You inform them about these things. Sometimes they will ask you questions about each of them. Why should we do this? Why should you do this? You should be grounded enough to explain to them. For example, if they ask you about why do they need to follow the approved method statement and risk assessment at all times, you will make them to understand that the method statement and risk assessment have been designed for their own purpose. It has been designed, some experts have designed, sit down together to look at the job they want to do, and they've observed so many risks, so many hazards that has to do with their job, and they're trying to save them, to protect them, so that not only live longer, but they will live to enjoy the fruit of their labor. Because so many people, we have so many people who, while growing up, they expose themselves to so many hazards. Last 2 weeks ago, I think 2 weeks ago, I went to the hospital. 2 weeks ago, I went to the hospital for medical checkup. Then I met a man who one of his eyes is already gone. One of them is already gone. The other it's only seeing faintly. So many times I've gone to the hospital for medical for eye checkup because of my eyes, and I've seen so many things. And I dropped it on my WhatsApp status that particular day that I think it's high time that we take our workers, especially those that are exposed to hazard that affect the eyes, like our welders. We take them to hospitals. We take them to eye clinic for them to see those that are going through pain as a result of exposure to hazard, especially when it comes to welding operation. So at the end of the day, after retiring, the money that they've saved together or for their business that they're supposed to use and start relaxing and enjoying, they'll start using those money to care, to treat themselves. And by that time, it has become too late, and it becomes a painful way to live an old life. So when you tell workers, when you want to relate with workers about method statements or permit to work, use it. That's what the company wants. That want them to use. You must produce. No, yes, we want to enforce, but there are ways that will go through this, that the worker, it will sink into the worker's understanding, even without stressing yourself. They will understand it from that area. I remember one of those days when I was sitting on the construction site, part of what I do is to have list of violators. And on my list of violators, whenever they violate, I put down their names and call them to attention, have the names of all their wives or their closest person, they have the name there. Then there's a particular day that I told one of them that I'm going to call your wife now and tell her that you want to kill yourself on site, that you are walking at height and you're not using belts. And that height is like 3-story building. And if you fall, you're going to die. I'm going to call your wife now. I took my phone, dialed the number on my phone, and I was about to call the wife. And he started begging me. He said, please, sir, no call him. If I reach out, I go, yeah, when. If I reach out, she's going to deal with me. She was scared and she was begging me not to call. Those are areas and aspects that how we can relate to workers when we are carrying out our safety induction. So let us continue. We talk about the exit, emergency doors, gangways, and escape routes, and how we must make them clean at all times. These are what forms part of our safety inductions. Then we'll talk about the drug and alcohol policy. Talk about the policy that addresses the use of alcohol. Talk about reason why, not only reason why, basically alcohol and drugs should not be allowed on site. Now, I used to use an example like if you want to take a plane, maybe you are traveling out, or you are going to another country and you need to take a plane, and you observe that your pilot is already drunk. Will you enter that plane? They say, God, no, I want to. Even ordinary bike man, if I observe that the bike man has drank something, maybe has drank ogogoro or alcohol or ethanol or whatever it is, or even a cab man, that I will not enter. And say, okay, now you want to walk, and the work that you are doing, you are directly exposing yourself to hazard. Now, is it right for you to drink or take hard drugs while you want to do that work? You say, God, it's true, it's not true. It's true, it's not good. So why I'm going through this extent is to understand, not only tell them about these things, about the procedures, also how do we communicate so that we sink into their understanding and be able to work based on the way we want them to work. Then what we call, there is this particular safety expert, Sidney Decker, who talks about safety differently, understanding the workers. But you can also shape the understanding of the workers based on how you communicate to them. Shape their understanding, not only by enforcing, but asking them, letting you understanding how best they want to work, and shaping their understanding based on that premises in order for them to follow an established procedure that you wish they work with and which they will actually work with at the end of the day, based on how best you are able to communicate to them. Notify the OSH representative of any person who is working under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Now, actions resulting in termination. This will not be reviewed. You tell them, when you fight on site, it's totally out of sight. Urinating anywhere on the site is also prohibited. Alcohol usage, possession within site. When you are having your alcohol or tobacco, you are or we see it with you in the site premises, you are going to be taken all away from work. And sleeping or resting on site. There are a lot of issues things that can lead to termination. When someone is a consistent violator, after going through the behavioral safety programs, after talking to him madly, after putting sanctions in place, after implementing your procedure, and the person continues to misbehave and violate, and it becomes obvious, which I don't think after some time, if that will be possible, like after going through your established BBS, if a worker goes through your established BBS programs, procedures, how you sanction workers, disciplinary procedures, and the worker still does not change, then apart from maybe terminating or whatever this thing you are giving, you should also review why that your established program is also not working. So there are various hazards that comes with the workplace: work at height, point of object, lifting, manual handling, fire, working in heat, high heat exposure, temporary electricity, excavation, confined space, COSH, that is control of substances hazardous to health, the material that has to do with cost, noise, traffic management, and vehicle safety. So you talk about the worker's responsibility, following safety instructions. This is the way, this instruction that you'll be given while you want to work for the day. They need to follow them. You tell them that's part of their responsibility. If in doubt, ask, stop unsafe work, report all incidents, stay alert at all time, and use the correct PPE at all times. And I'm very sure that this also will have come with training. The employer responsibility comes first, then the worker's responsibility follows. When the employer has taken their own responsibility to train, to give PPEs, to put safety in place, then and to establish procedures for incident reporting or near miss reporting, and created a culture in the workplace where safety is seen as the language of the common person in the workplace, then the worker's responsibility becomes easy to execute. There are so many workers who also want to report near misses, but due to peer pressure, peer group establishment, not to be seen as the bad egg or the strange person among them, he sees them. And I remember one of those days when we were still working in the construction site. There was a particular worker that was being given a gift for being the highest reporter of near misses, and we later started observing that they started criticizing him because he belongs to a particular contractor, and they started criticizing him for always reporting near misses. That tells us that when it comes to the safety culture of that workplace, it still has a long way to go. So, still on safety procedures and standards, they talk about their PPE also. You made them understand why they need to use PPE. All workers must wear helmets and other PPE at all times. PPE is the last form of defense at all times. Specific PPE must be worn as per approved risk assessment. Your PPE should be based on RA. But let's say, for example, the ADAT. There are various types of ADAT. There are various types of hand gloves. Hand gloves for work that involve vibration is different from hand gloves that involve working on a wet surface or in a wet area or working with tools. So depending on what the risk assessment approves, that will tell us the type of PPE that they should use at all times. All PPE must be in good condition. Workers, employee must seek advice from their immediate supervisor. So apart from mandatory PPE, additional PPE is to be used where required for the task. So you should also communicate about the use of PPE to all your workers that you're inducting on site. That I've said that it is beyond just induction. It's a proper training. You train them on how to use the PPE that is required for their job. The training that you will give for a welder is different from the training you will give to a laborer. Different from the extra training you will give to another technician, maybe a plumber, because the exposure, the risks and hazard that they are exposed to is different. But this training is generic to most technical works. Mandatory PPE, high-vis jacket, safety helmet, safety shoes, overall. Depending on what you work on your site, you can really easily edit this and work with it. So you also talk about housekeeping. Why do you need to carry out housekeeping on your site? Keeping the floor clean and tidy at all times. Housekeeping is basically, I've forgotten what I used to call it then. Putting everything in order, making the site look good. Though it might not take off all the hazards, but when you carry out proper housekeeping in your workplace, when you are concerned about the housekeeping about housekeeping, about the level of cleanliness in your workplace, it will affect some other areas of safety. For a particular workplace to be concerned about housekeeping, it shows that they are committed to safety. Housekeeping is actually one of those lasting construction sites look out for example. It's one of the last things they look out for example. Everywhere is rough later. But for a company construction site to be concerned about the housekeeping of their workplace, go and check that company or that construction site very well. They have safety procedures in place. Housekeeping has to do with putting everything in their place, not littering tools around, using designated collection area where you keep all your rubbish, clearing the way for hazards, clearing the way for emergency procedure, emergency route, potential walkway. Housekeeping also goes to the extent of someone wants to walk at night, for example, you're now using a ladder. They now place the ladder along pedestrian route where people are along the pathway or emergency exit. This shows that you're not putting things in the right way or the right place they should be. This is also part of housekeeping. So ensure no tripping hazards are created by materials, equipment, hose, cabling, aligning your cables. Sometimes, whether in the construction site, you see cables, maybe welders, they will lay cable from Yanawo Road to Oshodi, from Oshodi to Port Harcourt, from Port Harcourt to Russia. You start seeing cables scattered all around. Why? Because they don't have good housekeeping procedures. Everything should be arranged properly. When you're going on break, pick your tools, put your tools in their tools bag or tools box and arrange them properly. These are part of housekeeping. So you also train them about the need to make sure that while working, did you do housekeeping? Housekeeping should not be after the work. Housekeeping should not be after they've carried out their tasks, maybe after closing hour. No. Housekeeping is on the job. By the time you wait till you finish working to carry out housekeeping, you'll be tired and you will not be able to carry out a good housekeeping. So, and when you come in the next morning, you meet those debts, those rubbish there, and the working condition might not be favorable at that point in time. So it's always good to carry out the housekeeping while working. While on the job, supervisors should be around to keep watching and keep an eye on them while doing their work at all times. You should also talk about material storage. Where do you store your materials? For companies or process facilities that deal with chemicals, how do you store these chemicals? What are the labels? Understanding the labels on these chemicals for flammable materials, combustible materials, different hazard levels, the materials and how you address them properly. Materials should be stored properly in the allocated areas. Areas that have been created to store petrol should be for petrol. Areas that have been created to store nitrogen should be for nitrogen. Areas that have been created to store fire extinguishers should be for fire extinguishers. So flammable chemicals, liquid, and gases must be stored separately as per the SDS. SDS is safety data sheet, material safety data sheet. Stacking of materials should be stacked correctly and properly. Material should be labeled. Someone should not be carrying a particular substance or chemical in a container without an average person walking around knowing what is in that chemical. Maybe it's a petrol, maybe it's vinegar, whatever it is that is inside that container, it should be properly labeled. Ensure proper housekeeping at all time and your fire switches are always available as a storage point, especially when you are storing flammable materials. Experienced and competent storekeeper should handle the store. You should engage a storekeeper who knows about what is in the store and the various hazards that are with them. That's why storekeepers are supposed to be trained on COSH. COSH is control of substances hazardous to health. There are trainings that have to do with COSH. It's a training on its own that talks about the 11 different categorization, I mean 10 or 11 categorization of the various chemicals and their hazard and their exposure, even including radiation hazards and the likes. We also deliver this training. If you need this training, you can always get in touch with us. Spill kits are available to store waste. So we should also talk about your waste management system, how you have designated each bin for different kind of waste that is being generated. They talk about your waste disposal properly. So talking about business sustainability, like we said, the safety, you shouldn't go or limit yourself to talking about accident prevention alone. Yes, that is basic. That is when you say safety, absence of accidents. Safety is absence of injuries. When everybody feel safe, let me put it that way, or when people are not ill, absence of illness, accident, and the likes. But now you need to advance it to the age of business sustainability. How does it affect the business? So waste disposal is also an important part of what you should talk about when carrying out your safety induction. The various ways that you generate, how you limit the generation, and how also those generated should be managed. Concrete, block waste, wood scrap, conduit scrap, food waste, empty chemical containers, carton, papers, steel scraps, whatever they are, you should have a plan on how you manage them properly. Then control of substances, as I was talk about COSH the other time. We have irritants, corrosive, toxic, we have biohazards, depending on what you are working with. So material standard for all COSH items. You should have MSDS for all your items that you have on site, all your chemicals. You should come with even your cement that you use. There should be an MSDS that comes with it. Every chemical should have an MSDS, and the MSDS should be stored separately as per MSDS. There should be a particular folder that you keep your MSDS. Each contractor that comes to your site bringing a chemical should have the MSDS communicated to you. And the purpose is for you to communicate what is detailed in that SDS to the workers. And there should be evidence, because during your audit, it's a part of the requirement to prove that you carry out a particular training for workers based on the use of a particular chemical that is hazardous. So after we recommend that after the particular SDS has been communicated, there should be maybe at the back of the form, if you are still using hard copies, at the back of the form, at the back of the SDS material, at the back of the SDS material that is submitted, you have the list of workers that you trained, and this sign that they've been trained on the use of these chemicals and what they should put in place, so that if on a particular day they get exposed to a particular hazard and they fail to put a control measure that they've been trained on, then it becomes an issue. Then there should be, this will serve for in case of litigation, or in case of legal, it can involve going into legal action. The company can have evidence to prove that they've trained these workers and they also provided what the person will use, but the person failed to put those things in place. So these are part of the things you should train your workers on when it comes to COSH, that is controlled substance hazardous to health. Labeling your materials correctly. Copy of SDS should be available in the office. COSH is control of substances hazardous to health. Control of substances hazardous to health. So copy of MSDS should be available in the store, in the office, and first aid station. Proper training should be provided for those who are dealing with COSH. If you are dealing with someone who are dealing with these chemicals, they should be provided with proper training. Like we said, we have this training and we deliver this training also at Quarter City Consult. So let's continue. All hazardous waste must be disposed of separately. Hazardous waste also should be properly disposed of at every point in time. Sorry, I'm trying to move to the next slide. So the next thing you should be talking about during your safety induction is your permit to work system. For those that have a permit to work system. And it's actually advisable that organizations have what guides their activities from the beginning till after they carry out their daily work, till the close of work. There should be what we call the permit to work. It's very, very important. Permit to work is a documented procedure. Though it is documented, but it has a strength. It's very important strength. Apart from legally, it has its strength in implementing health and safety procedures, because it details so many information that have to do with the job. And it's not only assisting the safety professional alone, it also assists the engineers, it also assists the supervisors, because it's like a system that addresses so many things in the workplace. Before the start of work, there should be a permit to work that permits a particular worker to do a particular job. His name is written, he signs that he is doing this job in this particular location. Each location should have their own permit to work. And the risk, the hazard that has to do with the job have been addressed and also communicated to the worker. because the permit to work can be issued after an induction, after the toolbox talk has been taking place. The toolbox talk serve as the key to have your permit to work. If you have done your toolbox talk, submit your toolbox talk, and your name is included, even the supervisor who is addressing the job, who owns the job, must not engage someone whose name is not in the toolbox talk to carry out any activity, because it is what guides them. So it assists in so many ways. Even later, so many years later, there can be issues. Maybe at the end of the month, there can be issue with payment. There can be issue with absenteeism. Who is not absent, who is present. The permit to work with guide. So it has so many uses, apart from the safety use that we use it for. It has so many other uses. That's why it's a very good document that can be used inside to control work activities. If an accident happens, for example, and a worker gets involved in an accident, and then it's permit to work, and the permit to work for that location, his name is not there, then the question will be, we didn't tell you to work, we didn't permit you to work. Why do you go to do this work in this particular location? At the end of the day, it serves as a legal purpose. It serves as a legal purpose, and even for the workers too. That's why we tell them, whenever you want to start your work, write your name on the permit to work. Some of them will not write your name on the permit to work. They will start going. They will say they are busy. They want to start work early. If an accident happens, and if an accident happens, and you get involved in that accident, what the company will say is that your name is not on the permit. They need you a permit for you. So there are ways that we can communicate the purpose of this permit to work. That's where I'm going to. Communication is key when it comes to health and safety. So when you communicate from the, like I tell workers, write your name on this permit. If anything happens to you and you didn't write your name on the permit, the company will deny you. Then immediately they write their name. I said, before you write your name, understand what you want to do. Understand the hazard, understand the risk, also understand the checks that have been given to you. Are they in line with what you want to do? Do we provide all these things for you? And you say yes, and you sign on it. Simple. So communicating permit to work based on various activities is very important. Excavation, earthwork, working in shaft. You tell them these jobs require permit to work. When you are doing this job, please request for your permit. In fact, before you do any work, ask your supervisor, sir, where is the permit for this job? It's part of the safety induction you should give the workers. Before you do anything at all, ask your supervisor, sir, where is my permit to work? For various activities, you need permit to work at all time. For earthwork, watertight excavation, working at floor edges, removal of permanent edges, working in public space, based on the work you're doing, they need the permit to work that addresses that particular job. So you also talk about the safety signs. Depending on the safety signs that you have in your workplace, you can add yours. Add that must be one. All these signs, they should understand what it means. When they see green, safety sign. When they see red, prohibition. When they see blue, an advice, mandatory. When they see yellow, what does it mean? Warning, caution. So all this should be communicated also to workers and what they mean, so that whenever they get to a particular place and they see a particular sign, they should be able to understand what that means. When they see a skull with 2 bones, danger. So you need to communicate these things to your worker. It's part of what should be in your induction. Therefore, each of these jobs, for example, that they know, that's the purpose of the induction. Maybe an excavator, for example, or workers who are working on the site. Because when you are working on the site, even if you are doing welding, you might be walking around where excavation is taking place. So everybody needs to get all these safety inductions. For example, for excavation, you tell them, for someone that wants to excavate, maybe manual excavation or deep excavation or shallow excavation, my use of the excavator manually, no matter what you want to use, there should be procedures, and you tell them these procedures. Do not dig without approved permits. That is the first thing. There should be a permit to work that has been signed by the manager, by the engineer, supervisor, the permit authorizer. These people will sign, and it shows you that yes, they are involved in this job. That is what makes them to be concerned more, because that signature is there already. So excavation safety: do not dig without approved permit. Excavation walls shall be stepped, short, or battered. So whenever there's an excavation taking place, thank you for the comment. Please kindly keep it going so that I can see that people are asking some question people are asking some questions and they are getting the answers. We will address that at the end of the training. So excavation safety. You talk about the excavation. It should be short. Maybe it should not be straight. You know, most times when you go to some side, they have a deep excavation. They just make it straight vertically. It should be short. The edge should be short so that it is dark like a slope, a gentle slope. The purpose is that if it's too straight and just deep like that, the edges are very weak, and the distance from that edge to the ground can it can be as high as 1 or 2 meters, and the impact will be higher. But when it is short, even if something wants to fall, it rolls down, and it is not directly under the edge, the inner edge of the work activity. When someone is working at the edge and something is dropping directly, and the person does not see it, and based on the impact of work activities around the edges too. Even walking around the edges of excavated areas is also very dangerous, because even the soil can become weak and fall fall on those walking underneath. Please let us mute ourselves. We've said this several times. We said this several times. Please let us mute ourselves. So, suitable barrier and signage must be provided around all edges of the excavation as per edge protection standard. The edge protection standard, that is the distance for you to walk at the edge. At what distance? Having your barrier provided. These are part of what is embedded in the standard, not walking at the edge of excavation. Even if you want to create the barrier at the edge, there will be a distance, maybe I think 1.5 or so. Okay, my barrier must not be stopped within 1.5 meters of excavation edge. So 1.5 meters, you have your barricade. Then what I want to happen should happen outside, unless there's a particular need to work simultaneously. And there are procedures for what we call simultaneous operations. They are called CMOP operations. They are also safety control standard for that also. Always have proper access and egress is very important. Never throw tools or material down to someone in the excavation. A competent person is responsible to inspect the excavation at all times. So you should also talk about the various tools the person is using. Some use grinding machine, cutting machine, drilling machine, various power tools, power floating machine, different kind of cutting machine, welding equipment. No matter what they are, you should also talk about them. You should also talk about them at all times. So standard and good condition power tools should be used, and they should be properly inspected. Tool standard 110 to 220 volts power tools are permitted. You should talk about the voltage of the tools they are bringing into site. That's why tools inspection is also very important, because when they are bringing a tool that have higher voltage and the required based on the electrical installation in the facility is just for 220, and someone bringing 330, I think it can have effect on the electrical connection. So these are also part of the stuff that you should talk about. Use parts tools for the intended purpose only, for the purpose they have been designed for. Yes, never use power tools without safety guards. Grinders must be a dead man switch system. Then each protection and hearing protection must be worn. Sorry, eye protection must be worn. So depending on when the grinding disc weak or at the length of the ground for a particular level of time, you should not pick it and use it again. You should check the grinder, the disc, the disc rotation power, and that of the machine and that of the tool, to make sure that that of the tool is not higher than that of the disc, because when that happens, it can lead to shattering of the disc and so many other things you can also talk about when it comes to eye protection and hearing protection. So you also talk about hand tools. Sorry, the spelling there. You talk about various hand tools too. Talk about the standard and good condition power tools that you need to use. Keep all tools in good working order. You talk about the tools, actually, the safety use of all these tools. use of PPE while using all these tools, regular inspection of all these tools, always following manufacturer instructions when using these tools. These are the things you communicate to the workers and why they should use them, and why it is important for them to understand the safety aspect of these tools. So also you talk about, there are so many things to talk about when you're talking about hand tools. Keep close track of tools when working at height. A falling tool can kill a co-worker. So you should always grip your tools properly. You should have what we call tools lanyard. Yeah, you have what we call tools lanyard around your waist, that in case it drops off from your hand, the tools lanyard will hold it and not allow it to fall to the ground. Never carry sharp or pointed tools such as a screwdriver in your pocket. Even nails, some will put nails in their pocket or in their mouth. We've seen that in construction site. They'll put nails in their mouth, they bring it out, especially for carpenters. Then we tell them, okay, the minimum we can do is to have like all these PET bottles, for water, and put your nails in there and maybe tie it on your neck. It's not safe for you to put nails in your mouth. So store tools properly when you stop work. Carry tools securely in a tools belt or bus. Don't carry tools up ladders. Use the hoist. If you want to carry tools up, use the hoist. When you get to that height, then use the hoist to take it properly. Use it hoist or rope. A simple rope can also do the wonderful job. Yeah, you talk about electrical safety. Let them know that electricity kills. It's one of the major causes of death in the world generally. Now in the construction site also. So we talk about the volts that is being that your electrical connection installation has been designed for the site. Electrical installation equipment must be installed, maintained, and commissioned by licensed electricians. You should use licensed electricians at all times. Prior to the commencement of the excavation drilling occurring, ensure that the proper drawing are consulted to ensure potential electrical hazards are identified and that the appropriate approvals are obtained. So these are what you need to talk about, among others, when it comes to electrical safety. Electrical safety is very, very deep when it comes to work at height. Laying of cables is also part of electrical hazard and electrical connections. Procedure, especially when it has to do with the electrical installation themselves, maybe a power company that is installing electricity. Apart from the normal electrical hazard I will talk about, the basic ones, they still need to talk about the electrical safety of the electrical connections themselves, and that is an advanced form of training for them specifically. Then part of what you also talk about is temporary electricity. All temporary electrical cables must be laid on the ground within heavy-duty conduit, location number less than 500 meters below ground level. So when you have temporary connections, maybe based on construction site, and you just need to do your cables, most times we lay it overhead. Yes, we do overhead connection for both, but from standard they do temporary underground connections for heavy-duty conduit, within heavy-duty conduit, and it should be nothing less than 500 millimeters below the ground level. A temporary electrical installation must be in accordance with required standard. The commissioning of temporary electrical supply must be completed only by licensed electrical contractor. Sorry. They talk about work at height. So part of your induction process, what you talk about during your induction. Anybody can work at height when it comes to set activities. When it comes to working above 2 meters, in some organizations they say 1.8 meters, and you must wear a body harness for protection or for prevention, PPE. Harness must be pre-approved through the safe working method statement. It is very important. It is very, very important that you do this at all time. Safe work method statement, because that's the full meaning of SWMS, safe work method statement. So it must be according to what has been addressed in the method statement. Platform ladders are permitted also. We talk about it, if they are permitted or not. Never work on any ladder within 3 meters of the edge of the elevated work area where the fall is greater than 2 meters. So when you are working and you want to use a ladder, this particular one can be reviewed based on what is obtainable on your construction site. But what we're talking about is that you should have safety procedures for work at height listed during your and communicated during your work at height induction, during your general safety induction. Ensure proper and safe access. All edges are to be protected with suitable double handrails and toe. That is a toe board. There should be toe board in case an item wants to fall. The toe board protects them. If you look at the diagram by your left at the top, the one that looks like, sorry, by your right at the top, the one that looks like it's being sketched, you can see the edge protection that is available there. And I think that is the old system that is being used for that particular work. Then your ladders also. Yeah, that's what we said, safe work method statement. So ladders also, there are standards to use of ladder. We know about the ratio 1:4 or 75-degree, ratio 1:4. That is when you look at from the wall or the vertical area and the ground floor. If the distance from the edge of the ladder to the edge of the wall is 1 meter, the vertical one to the edge of the ladder at the top should be 4 meters. That is 1:4. So that tells you how you should properly place your ladder. That tells you what you should properly place your ladder. Ladders should basically be used for access, but sometimes we use it for some activities, for some light activities, in as much that the ladder has been approved for that purpose, and there must be someone using your holding your ladder, or you should have something that holds it at the ground floor, or that secures it at the ground floor, and also at the side. Yes, there are some times that you can secure it from the side and also at the ground floor, or someone should always hold it for you, even though depending on the kind of work you might be doing, someone standing under you directly holding the ladder can be another risk. But if it's the light job or light activity, the person should be protected properly before such can be done. So ladder shall be secured properly prior to use. You should secure your ladder. You should inspect your ladder before use. Check the rungs to make sure that there is no rust, there is no loose part that can make the person to fall at any point in time. Ladder used for access purpose must sight minimum 1 meter above from the ladder platform. This is basically the 3 rungs. Like you should have 3 to 4 rungs. After maybe what I think here is that if you're using this ladder as an access to a particular platform, the last rung must not be at the edge of that platform. It should be like 3 meters above. Like you should have like 3 rungs above the platform where you are going to, so that it will be convenient for that person to move to that platform. You should not overreach while using the ladder. Overreaching is not allowed while using the ladder. And even while using the scaffold, overreaching is not. Work at that generally, you don't allow overreaching. Overreaching is working outside the framework of that particular, of that particular ladder or scaffold or anything you are using for your work at height. Do not use ladder near floor edges and opening. Your ground floor that you're using your ladder must be strong, must be solid. 3-point system must be obtained at all times. That is, at any point in time, you should have either 2 legs and 1 hand on the ladder, or 2 hands and 1 leg on the ladder. Every point in time, there must be 3-point contact. 3-point contact at every point in time. Please let us continue. Your scaffolding working system or working platform needs to be talked about. Scaffold induction, you just need to go briefly because there are so many things to talk about when it comes to scaffolding, when it comes to induction of worker for scaffold. Standards and safe working platforms should be provided and used for the job. Scaffolding shall be erected, altered, dismantled by a competent person, must have valid third-party certificates. Scaffolders and tag system must be followed. Scaffolders and tagging system must be followed. Before a worker uses any scaffold, it must be properly tagged for use. There must be a proper access point. There must be a good working platform. It must be properly braced. There should be good installation of erection of the scaffold. There should be toolboard provided. There's been a point where someone can anchor when working at time, and it should be properly inspected either weekly or daily, depending on depending on what is written on your, depending on what is obtainable based on your established procedures. Some inspect it daily and some inspect it weekly, as the case may be. But we advise, especially for construction activities, we advise it to be done daily, because every day there's a new hazard, there's a new risk. Mobile elevated work platform, MEWP, as anticipated platform, you should also talk about it if it's what you use on your site too. All mobile elevated work platform and social work platform, you have scissors lift, cherry pickers, mass climbers, cradles, man baskets. No matter whatever it is that you use, must thoroughly checked and tested by local authority. Like this, we will call it simply third party certificate. You should have third party certification for all your heavy duty equipment or all your elevated work platform equipment. That is the third party, independent party that maybe in Nigeria, for example, will be connected, that has registered with there's a particular ministry that addresses inspection of all this equipment. I forgot, maybe someone can remind us. So they are third party, so that organization will be registered under them, and they will be approved to carry out third party inspection on all this equipment, even including cranes and the lights. But I think someone has made a comment. Yeah, Ministry of Labor. Okay, I was thinking, I had it in mind, but I was doubting if they are the one actually. Thank you, sir. Operators of mobile work platform and power treated work platform must be valid third party certificate. They must be trained by a third party company independently from local authority and approved agency. So these are part of basic things you talk about, you look out for when you are carrying out, when you talk about your work platform, how they should move. When you are moving, if you want to move from one point to another, you should bring down the working platform, you move to where you want to move to, then you move it up again. You shouldn't move it, you shouldn't move your mobile elevated work platform while at that height and start moving from one point to another. It can tilt. So you should look at the ground floor system before you move from one point to another. It should be properly inspected and properly checked at all points in time. So, vehicle safety. When you're talking about vehicle safety, this instruction must be followed. When you're inducting them about, for those maybe that are drivers, truck drivers within the facility, or even those that are using your, what's it called? Yeah, like JCI. Even those that are using your forklift and the like that are working within the premises, you should talk about the procedures. Adhering to speed limits signages on site at all times. Some say 5 kilometers, some say 10 kilometers per hour, depending on what you use. Obey all safety warning signs. Do not overtake. Seatbelt must be worn at all times. Use of mobile phone is not allowed while driving. Stop, then talk. Leave safe distance between you and vehicle in front. Do not transport operative in pickup bins. Do not leave the vehicle while motor is still running. If you want to stop working, switch off the engine. Don't switch it on and go away to do some other things. These are part of the procedures that I talk about to those that will be involved in vehicle safety. Then talking about lifting, this is another. If you have maybe a contractor, a worker whose job is to carry out lifting operation, then you can go detailed. Talk about the procedures for lifting. Talk about having a permit to work. Talk about the basic things that we think you should know about. Your outriggers, the inspection of the equipment, checking out for hydraulic leakages, understanding the procedures to carry out the lifting, knowing the weight of the object you want to lift, the direction you want to lift, the positioning, and every other thing that has to do with lifting operation. So if you have a generic person, maybe someone who's just walking around, then you talk about what to do when they see a worker, when they see a lifting operation, not walking around the edge of not walking around the edge, or not walking even within the premises or when a lifting operation is taking place. When there's a barricaded area for lifting operation, the person should not move under lift or move under it, but find another alternative to move. And also, when a lifting operation is taking place, you should be careful of objects that might fall at that point in time. They be careful of the working operation, and most importantly, find another alternative route. Saying you want to quickly run under lifting operation, it is not always safe. So depending on who want to induct, we should also make sure that we give this detailed based on that. Then the ground floor compaction, make sure that the ground floor where you want to place your outrigger, the platform itself, it is strong and firm enough. And place load spreader, fully extend outrigger and level the crane. Load spreader are the base plates. We basically call them base plates at the base of the outrigger that help to spread the load across the floor and make sure that the floor is also compacted properly. Then never set up crane on unstable ground. Don't set up your crane on grounds that are unstable. You can see this. Sometimes we do this a lot. We'll put some planks under it to make it stable. This is not always advisable. The lifting equipment generally, before you carry out the lifting operation, you should also always make sure that there's a lifting plan, which will involve everything that has to do with the job, and it will be connected together with the permit to work. It will be connected together, attached with the permit to work, attached with the special checklist, attached with the toolbox stock. These are not just documents, these are not just papers, these are serving a purpose. These are just evidence of a particular activity that has been taking place, evidence of inspection, evidence of going through the procedures, evidence of carrying out a risk assessment, evidence of commitment of the management, evidence of so many things put in place and in paper form. So we should not just look at it as it's paper, it's just evidence. The real activities take place and the document follows. So lift plan must be revised as to allow for the changes made on site. If you have a new equipment, maybe you wanted to use the 40-ton equipment to lift a transformer of 1 ton, and later they brought the 20-ton. You need to have a review. We did the same. You want to use the basket lifting before, or you're now like, okay, basket lifting, let us use a straight line lifting. You wanted to use the sling before, but now you say let us use a belt or whatever. There are changes. Then changes that are made will give rise to review of your your lifting plan. Lifting operations must be undertaken by a minimum of 3 competent persons. That is very basic. The crane operator, the bankman, and the supervisor. Lifting of the load from the truck trailer is controlled by the banksman designated for the task. The banksman must be there at all times to coordinate. There's another training that has to do with lifting operation. Lifting operation is another training entirely. And we also deliver this training. All those signs and the likes when it comes to lifting operation is also very important. Communication between the banksman and the crane operator and the supervisor. It's always very, very important. And I'm very sure that most of us know that lifting operation is one of the high risk operations that we carry out on site. Please let us mute ourselves so that the time is fast spent already. Please let us take this lesson down. So, visual pre-use inspection must be done on all lifting tackle prior to and after use. Lifting shackles, all the equipment we want to use for the lifting, there must be proper pre-use inspection, visual one, just look at it around. Any load testing must be carried out by a registered third-party person. Permit to work must be completed before use of tower or mobile crane. Approved lifting method statement and risk assessments must be followed at all times. This we have repeated so many times here. Then edge protection. Proper handrails must be provided to all floor edges, floor openings, shafts, staircases, and working platform. We must always protect the edges, not only for those that are down, but also for those that are up there. So we must make sure that there is a guardrail, proper handrail where they will hold on to. Even those that are on the ground too. The reason why you are having air protection is also involved because of tools, like the tool board that we talked about the other time. In case the tool wants to fall down, it won't drop on someone who is walking under the height, as the case may be. Scaffolders are authorized to install, alter, or remove permanent edges protection in the site. Requests should be given 1 day in advance to install, alter, or remove handrails for a purpose. Depending on what your own procedure is, you can review this. That's why it's called safety procedures and standard. There is no fixed way of doing things based on what you have in your organization. Then you review and you work along with that. The floor protection too is very, very important. A floor opening, rather than there's a floor opening in any floor, platform, pavement, or yard that measures at least 3 centimeters in its smallest dimension, that is in diameter, and through which a fall can occur. Any small opening, there must be proper edge protection. There must be proper edge protection. It can be as simple as a scaffold installed, what we do most times, or proper edge protection like we have it here. Steel mesh shall be provided in this particular one. Steel mesh can be provided to all penetrations more than 20 centimeter and 20 centimeter by 20 centimeter in size. All penetrations should be covered. You should make sure that all edges, all floor, all opening should always be covered at all point in time. Hot work, there's a permit for hot work. Work attire, hot work, welding operation, and that has to do with grinding, eating, and lights. There should be a permit. One permit shall be for a particular area. Depending on what is obtainable in your own workplace. Maybe a particular location have its own permit. A permit can be for 1 week. You must have a fire watch. You must have a fire extinguisher that has been checked. Your equipment must be checked properly. There must be a supervisor that is there at all time. Every procedure that you want to establish or put in place, you should make sure that everything is being communicated to this person you are inducting, especially if you are inducting a welder. If you are inducting generally everybody who is just coming to work on the site, you might talk about working around someone who is welding, not carrying flammable materials around someone who is welding. If you observe something, maybe a sparking moving around, all these flashes, all these welding fumes walking around, whatever the case may be, and it's going around to maybe where there is a hot wall, where there is where there are flammable material, you can call their attention. You might be working, might be doing something else somewhere, and you see somebody moving with petrol, and you also see moving towards someone who is doing welding operation, and you are the only one who can see the two of them. You should raise an alarm and let them know that both of them want to create an hazard or want to create an accident, so that the person carrying the petrol can pass another alternative route, or the person welding will stop, allow the person to pass and continue the operation. So the induction about hot work is not only for those operating, but also for those who are walking around at that point in time. Confined space. You also train workers on confined space. If there are specific work that has to do with confined activities, consider we have mentioned so many work activities on the construction site. Please let us mute. Confined space must be signed confined space entry by permit only. Confined space entry shall only be permitted if authorized by the safety manager. The confined space entry permit is required to be completed, signed, and authorized prior to entry. A RAMS, risk assessment and method statement, must be completed and attached to the confined space entry permit. It must be there. All persons involved in the work must be competent to perform confined space work. Training certifications, details are to be recorded. A log of entry and exit times and dates shall be maintained. If you want to carry out a permit, so there are things that you should look out for. There must be there must be air testing to test the component of the chemicals or the air present inside the confined space to make sure that it is habitable for someone to go into. There should be procedures for emergency response. There should be established procedures, time that someone working in a confined space should use. Every 5 minutes, we bring it out, we put another person in, you rotate it like that. Then you should communicate all these things to the workers and make sure that there is a supervisor that is there. There should be constant way of communication. Sometimes when we use rope, when we attach rope to someone who is working in the confined space, what we do sometimes is that we shake the rope. We might have communicated with the person before going down. If we shake the rope, you shake it back. So when you move the rope like this, you shake the rope, and the person sees the shaking of the rope, the person too must shake it back. That means that yes, I'm still good. So that by the time you shake the rope and the person is not responding, and that can be done every 1 minute, depending on what is obtainable and how deep it is, or every other procedure that you put in place. So there are so many things that have to do with confined space, but let us go ahead. This material will be shared across to us through this platform. Sorry, I will not be sending it individually to individuals, to people, but I will send it via every group that we belong to, and also via I'll send it via this. We created the part you register for this training, and we'll edit it, include the link for the material for you to download it on Google Drive. So I think that will work. Let's see how it goes. So these are just images talking about confined space based on what is obtainable and how people carry out confined space activities. So manual handling, talk about manual handling for those that are doing labor work. Tell them the reason why they need to carry out proper manual handling. Tell them about it's for their own long-term effect. They don't call short-term effect and long-term effect. So talk about this and communicate this to them properly. Then if you are doing wood cutting operation, the cutting machine, you talk about it also. You talk about the dust that has been generated. Talk about how it affects them and how they need to use proper nose smart that is provided. How they don't need to play around cutting machine, wood cutting machine, depending on what's obtainable in your workplace. Talk about these details too. Talk about heat stress, most especially in the construction site, on infertilities that has to do with generating so much heat. Someone who is working in the boiler unit, or who is working with boiler, or in the boiler room, or in the generator room, the noise, the heat that comes from there, or in a particular area where they deal with heat, maybe a bakery, for example, and workers are there working. What are those things you need to talk about in the construction site? To exposure to sun, telling them that they should put on their PPE at all time, immense exposure to sun, hydration, regular hydration, frequent breaks, especially in the east, in the east, in all these UAE, where there is excess sun, or in the northern part of Nigeria here, where there is even here in Lagos here, by 12 o'clock, you know that something is hitting you. Though the heat is more than heat, but it's still heat, because we are talking about 40 degrees Celsius and above now. So even 35 degrees Celsius is still hot. So we should also talk about this: regular breaks, drinking plenty of water to avoid dehydration, drinking oral rehydration solution, glucose, as the case may be. So they talk about fire prevention. We talk about no smoking. We talk about what can cause flame, what can cause fire: smoking, naked flame, cutting, welding, internal combustion engine, electrical equipment, temporary electric installation, any other machine capable of producing a local source of ignition. So you should talk about everything based on what we have on your side. You know your facility already, you know where there can be fire, what can bring up fire. So you talk about these things, and you talk about what you have put in place to ensure that there is you prevent flames, you prevent fires, or if there's a fire, what are you provided to quickly extinguish the fire, and what they should do in case of emergency. So these are part of what you should be talking about your housekeeping, regular housekeeping, and all your electrical equipment that can lead to fire. So you talk about the various standards that have been put in place, the electrical equipment, you talk about the tools, the disconnection of your tools when you're not in use, you're going for a break, disconnect it and keep it properly. Then you talk about the fire extinguishers, where you place them, and how you have planned to use them. If you're not trained to use the fire extinguisher, you should move to the muster point and obey the no smoking policy. Then you talk about the rules, the pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. Most of us, we know this already when using a fire extinguisher. As part of the basic training that you give them, especially when you are inducting a fire watch, for example, or someone who you are, maybe you created a team of fire respondent team in your workplace for busy fires, those are working around. Then you train them on how to use it to be part of your induction, or even a word, and you must train them on this. Then you talk about the emergency procedures. You know, I wrote company name here, so you remove it, you put your own company name, contact so person, or so team, or so unit. Immediately when you see a fire or any emergency, then there should be emergency contact can be made for two-way radio or mobile phone. There should be a number that should be called. Then your emergency medical technicians or medical team, as the case may be, it should be displayed on your site. Then the safety officer should be displayed, fire marshal, first aider, and the safety person, their names should be displayed, and how to contact them. The fire extinguisher are located in the designated areas or whenever you require them. Never fight a fire unless confidence complex, and you fight fire at the early stage. You don't have fire as high as 1 meter, and you are 1 meter in diameter, 1 meter in length and breadth wide, and you're trying to use a fire extinguisher, a normal fire extinguisher, to do that when you are not trained to do so. So in the event of an emergency evacuation of the site, you will be warned by continuous siren for evacuation on. So whatever your own procedure is in your workplace, you can edit this and put them accordingly. In the event of a fire, I'll also drop my numbers, my WhatsApp numbers for those who might need it, so that in case you don't get in the groups or any other place, I can send it directly to you also. So you talk about your emergency procedures. If there's a fire, activating the alarm, calling the attention of people, containing the fire by closing the doors. That is why it's at the design stage. Then we're talking about LOPA, layer of protection, or line of defense, LOD. Those ones are process safety training. Maybe some other time we might talk about this in some other trainings, but we are talking about the basic ones now. So in case there's a fire at the design stage, for example, all those doors will be intrumescent, or intrumescent material, so that it will contain those fire, so that people will be able to escape, or those that will be attended to the fire will do that at that point in time. I said, please send your. I will send my WhatsApp number to it. Mr. Samuel has my number, and he's still asking me, sending me to me. So just please kindly let's mute. So I'll just send it to you via WhatsApp. I think that please let us know so that we can finish this class as soon as possible. We are almost out of. Please, okay, I'll take this person out. That would solve it. So activate the alarm, inform people about the supervisor, the receptionist, or whoever is there about the fire, and inform the emergency controller. Then extinguish the fire if you are competent to do so. So action on hearing the alarm: you move to the nearest exit. Your nearest exit, you move there. Do not take personal belongings. Wow! If you have your phone, it's quite funny. Like if you have your phone with you now, yeah, maybe when you had the alarm, you have your phone with you now. Yeah, do not take personal belongings. Not drop the phone. No, that's not what they are saying. If you hear the fire alarm and your phone is with you, normally is with you already. Maybe your laptop with you. You can take your laptop and start moving out. But to start packing your bags, packing your loads, and running, no. Do not go to that extra miles. Do not take things within your reach. What you need to save first is your life. Once your life is saved, every other thing comes into play. That reminds me of the fatal accident that has been downplayed here in Nigeria. If that kind of accident has happened in developed countries, they will have created a complete investigation, a complete report, and a complete mode of communication to all individuals or to all citizens. The fire accident that happened, so I think 2 or 3 years ago at what was it called? That happened 2 or 3 years ago in along this bridge. That people died. That people were burnt in fire. Up to, I had up to like 50 cars or so were burnt, or 20, 30, a lot of cars were burnt simultaneously because people were sitting inside. They were sitting at Otedala Bridge. They were sitting inside the car when they saw fire coming. Maybe they were thinking, my car, I don't know. And the fire burned them right inside the car. This is not even public transport. I said that okay, maybe they don't know how to escape. This is them seeing fire from afar, and they could not just apply their brakes, switch off their engine, and just move out immediately. Please, when you see a fire, do not stay. Move. Go to the nearest exit and move to the muster point. Do not use lift, because lift the electrical connections that works with the lift can be affected by that fire, and it will shut down. Normally, some organizations do this to shut down automatically. So don't use lifts. These are the things that you tell your workers and why they should do them. Hey, I keep saying that I won't send this thing to emails, and people keep sending their email address. Please, let's continue. Go to your nominated assembly area and wait for further directions. So you put your emergency report contact matrix here, maybe at this point. Like I said, I want to send this material to us. You put them there so that you tell them this person you call for this, this person you call for this, and they have it written down. Or you can have it, you can even have, if the organization has a card, emergency card, my contact, I've written my contact there. Just pull up, you see my contact there. So emergency details or a card that you use for emergency procedures, you can also give them that has these details. So you talk about the welfare amenities, the car parks, the mass area, the canteen, the drinking water, the toilet, the wash area, the rest area, the prayer room, and the first aid training, the first aid section too. Talk about these things to everyone. Please, I've sent my WhatsApp number already. Scroll up in the chat section. So you talk about breaching of safety standard, work will stop and the breach will be investigated. You talk about what is obtainable when it comes to breaching of safety standard. Then you talk about your the golden safety rules. I think most of us are acquainted with this already. The safety system of work, method statement, the experienced key workers, tools and equipment appropriate to the work. Oh, I sent it to the waiting room, sorry. Let me resend it again. Apologies, please. 2865786. Okay, well, I sent it to the waiting room. That was a mistake, sorry. Tools and equipment appropriate to the work, personal protective equipment and clothing, housekeeping, training. Please, kindly drop it here. Kindly use this one. I should be doing this after the class, but because of time. So please don't use the second line. Use the second line that I'm sending now. So housekeeping, training, supervision, observe all site safety rules and procedures and warning signs, understand and observe fire prevention and emergency procedures. These are golden safety rules. So you can put the picture of your assembly point here, of your muster point here. And that ends our session for today. So we have so many trainings that we give. Like we said, we have sessions training on accident investigation and risk management techniques. We have recorded version of this training in case you are interested in this. In case you are interested in this training, you can get in contact with us. We did this training in October and September, and we recorded great feedback. Development analysis and HSE data analysis, and we have it recorded. So, in case you are interested, in any of this training, you can call our attention or you can get in contact with me. So, other trainings that we give also for companies, for individuals, they include control of substance hazardous to health, promoting positive and safety culture in your workplace. We can help you to give out such trainings. Integrating safety to site management, basic health and safety in the workplace, HSE gap analysis, we deliver this training also, safety documentation process and implementation, first aid training, electrical safety training, emergency response training, hazard communication, hazard identification and risk assessment, work attire training, confined space training, safety scaffolding, and every other thing that you might require. Other safety trainings and related courses are available on request. So if you need any of this training, you can always get in contact with us. We are available at all time, and you have our details already. Communicate to us. Let us plan towards next year. Let us have a plan for our next year trainings for our workers. Please, thank you all for waiting to this time. I think this is the first time that we'll be having people staying from beginning till the end, and they maintain that till the end. Having 49, 50, and we still have 48 people still staying till this moment. Thank you all for your time. Thank you all for staying with us. We appreciate you. We value you. Please, if you have any question, please let us ask.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, my question is with the hot permit. Sorry.
Your name, sir? Is it
Oh.
Mr. Eric?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Eric, my Ghanaian friend. How are you doing? You're welcome, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. I'm doing well. And yourself?
All right, very well.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted clarity on this. If your work requires that always you do a hot work like welding and that kind of stuff, will you, and that is a routine work, will you need a work permit for it all the time that they are to carry the job?
Yeah, yes, thank you for that question. Depending on what is happening in your workplace, even though it is you might call it routine activity, but the hazard embedded in them requires you to have a permit to work for them. It requires you to have a permit to work. You can now schedule your permit to work to be weekly or to be daily. There's no standard requirement that says that you must have a permit to work system, but it is part of evidence-based system when it comes to your documentations based on ISO requirements. ISO will not tell you to have your permit to work system, but if you want to provide evidence of this and that and that and this, the permit to work can actually help you in doing that. So you need to have a permit to work system, even though it's a daily activity in your warehouse, in your welding unit, or whatever your workshop. They need to have a work. You can have a permit to work, but it is not a must. Like I said, it's not a standard that you must have a permit to work. But based on best practice, you can develop a permit to work for them to guide their activities and to ensure that they follow the procedures that you've established via your permit to work system.
So yeah, very well understood. But if you have a method statement or job safety analysis that you have done with them, that is with them, can it suffice? Will it be also okay with this if you have safe working procedure that you have done with them, that is with them to guide them in their work, identify the hazards and the control measures that they need to put?
Okay. I can see Mr. Luwole is still on the call, so I'll call him to. Please kindly mute yourself while I call him to address that. But let me just say again, the purpose of your permit to work is beyond the purpose of your method statement or your SOPs and your risk assessments and your JHA. Your JHA is attached to your permit to work. What the permit to work is it gives a line of authorization for your job. When a particular task is to be taking place, your risk assessment gives your method statement and risk assessment give an overview of the overall of all the job, all the project, all the activities for the project and the risks involved. But your permit to work addresses maybe each week or each particular task for part of that project. Maybe you want to, for example, construction of installation of a 10-kilometer pipeline, for example. You give analysis of the whole hazard that you think of in your risk assessment and method statement. But what you permit to work, we now address for each week. For each week or for daily activities, maybe for a day, you are in this location. This is the work that is there. These are the workers that are working. It involves so many other details that will not be detailed in your risk assessment, and it gives an authorization that a particular engineer or a manager approves this work, authorizes this job to be done. The workers understand the risks and the hazard involved in the job, and it has been signed, and everybody is on check on this particular job. In a day when it is raining, the method statement and risk assessment will not indicate that it is raining on the 7th of June, and it will rain on the 7th of June, and you need to have a risk assessment or a particular new hazard. No, your method statement will not tell you that. Your permit to work for that particular day, maybe in a month when it is raining, will involve those details. Your risk assessment or method statement might not cover those information, but from your risk assessment and method statement, you can draft your permit to work also. So your permit to work is actually doing the detailed information for a particular task on a particular week or day from a particular set of people authorized by a particular person. So it involves so much more details. I want Mr. my Mr. Oluwole and Ifeoluwa to please spread more light on that before I call on the next person. Is Mr. Oluwole there? And Ifeoluwa? I think he is not present here. But that is just the basic information, Mr. Eric. I don't know if Engineer Lawal we have something to say about that, sir. Are you on the call, sir? Hello, are you there, sir? Okay, please let us call on Mr. Engineer Isang, City Court. Please, can you unmute, sir?
Okay, I just wanted to throw a little bit more light to the question I think that was asked by Eric. Excellent response by you, Badegoke. Just to add that I don't know the perspective he was asking the question from. Whether it's asking the question from the perspective of somebody that has a place he's working and is in charge of making the rules, or whether it's already working in a place where they are already, he has his own place and there are already no guidelines and he wants to try to instill the guidelines. I think but if you are working in a place in an organization, or you're a contractor or going to work on a site where there is already a permit to work system, you need to get to understand how their own, what the governing principles of their own permit to work system. Different organizations may have some slight variations in how they approach permit to work system. There are organizations that will say you must use permit everywhere. There are organizations that will say maybe even within the facility, they may have certain areas that's okay. If you are doing hard work within this particular area, you can do it without a permit. You can just do it with maybe your JSA or with your method statement. Or there are other organizations that will say anywhere you want to go. So get to understand what is applicable at the site you want to work at. But if you don't really have a site specifically, and then you have your own organization, or you want to think of how to institute what governs your own location, then those thoughts provided by Adegoke are quite perfect. That's just what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thanks so much, my leader. That is well detailed. Before I call on the next person, I have I'm going through the chat section. Mr. Gabriel asked, should a safety officer issue a permit to a contractor who have already started work without the notice of the safety officer? If the contractor has been inducted and has been informed of the procedure, but go ahead to work without a permit, it's not only about stopping the work now, it's also about getting them to tell you the reason why this action does need not to be taken on them for working without a permit to work. So if that happens, the first thing is to stop that particular work. If you have communicated to them already that that's the procedure and they failed to follow that procedure, is to stop that particular work and ask them reasons why they went ahead to work without permit to work system. And at the end of the day, you now decide further what actions you want to take. So let me call on Mr. Eric Sapo. Please kindly unmute, sir.
Okay, thank you, sir. I am Sapo from Ghana. Your presentation is very nice. I have a short question.
Okay, sir.
In case during the safety induction process, you get to know that those who are to be inducted, they have different job roles. Some are carpenters, some are masons, some are this and that, security, different people mingled. How do you handle such situation?
Please come again, please.
I'm saying that during the induction process, if you get to know that the people you are to induct, they have different job roles. Their job roles are different, and you are doing the induction all together. How do you handle such situation? Thank you.
Okay, okay, that's a very good question. What I used to do is that, like I said, most of these trainings are generic, depending on how you are able to communicate. Let's say, for example, you are giving training to a welder, a scaffolder, and an heavy duty operator, heavy duty equipment operator. You know, these are different jobs. There are some particular aspects that binds them together. You talk about them. When you are talking about other areas, you now talk about how it affects the other person. For example, you're talking about welding operation now. Why you focus full time on the effect of welding operation to the welder, you also be communicating with the other person who is not a welder, but will be working around welding operation on his own responsibility too. Because it's not only the welder that is exposed, but also people that are working around. So every information, no knowledge is lost. Every information is required. That is why there should be a generic site safety induction. But if you are now inducting only welders now that have come to carry out particular welding, then you now focus your energy, your strength more on welding operation. Remember that a welder will also work at height. A welder will also use the scaffold. So when you are talking about scaffold, work at height safety for scaffolders, you also tell someone who is working, who is the welder too, that whenever he wants to work at height, you also follow the procedures they are talking about when it comes to work at height. So it's not only about the name of the task now, is the hazards that are embedded in that work and those that are exposed to that particular hazard. So at the end of the day, there is a generic information, generic communication listed items that you can discuss to everyone regardless of that particular work area. I hope that answers the question. Engineer Isang, want to add something to that? Kindly unmute, sir. Engineer Isang, ACT Court, want to add something to that, sir? I can see your hand up.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. I can hear you now.
Okay, let me take the guy that asked the question about the permit to work, somebody working without a permit, and then you, safety officer, meeting him. Every organization have guidelines. They have standard policies and administrative controls. And that is part of why leadership is key. So in any situation you find yourself, just like Adeguke talked about, trying to get to know why and the rationale behind such an action, definitely you have to fall back as in the standard policies for administrative controls for the organization to enforce in that organization what is supposed to be done. I mean, based on principles, based on their ways of practices, based on their guidelines, their rules, what is supposed to be done by somebody who does work without a permit in the context of the information you have gathered as in the rationale. So that will now determine the action you take. That's part of aligning with what Adeguke talked about. And then for the guy that talked about different people doing induction, different people on different craft. Now, primarily, we need to understand that if our personnel selection process is working fine, these guys are supposed to be in carpentry. A welder is supposed to be expert in welding. So indirectly, trying to teach them their job is trying to bring them at par with the governing principles as in the safety principles that is obtainable at that site. So that a welder can combine with a carpenter and a lot of other things, and everybody will work fine. And then it comes down to you, the safety officer, giving you orientation. I mean, just like you having people that may be very good in terms of their work, but may not understand English, or their level of education may not be very high. So it comes down to your skill. I mean, what approach will you need to use to be able to pass the message, to be able to make sure that your induction is effective? So check your own skill and then look at the context. Do you need to group them together like they will talk about? A lot of things may be generic that may be applicable to all of them, but there could be some things that you may have to deal one-on-one. But that comes back to your skill and then how you want to modernize it. Remember, in whatever you do, that the intent of the orientation needs to be achieved. While the methodology may vary, but make sure that you apply that method or that technique or strategy that will enable you achieve the intent of that induction. That's just what I needed to add. Thank you.
Thanks so much, sir. That is well detailed. There is one person who was raising his hand the other time. Okay, I can't find him. So let me call on Mr. Sylvester Asibi, the last question for the day. Please kindly unmute yourself, sir. Mr. Sylvester.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. I want to contribute to the permit to work system, which, in addition to all you have said, is a part of the safety management system. But what I want to say about the permit to work is that it ensures that all procedures for that particular job are put in place. I don't know whether I'm flowing, sir. Am I communicating?
Yes, sir, you are.
It is to make sure that the safety procedures that are put in place for that job is already in place, it's in place, checked before it is approved. Then the person holding it becomes the permit holder, who also serves like the safety supervisor of the job throughout the duration of that job. Then after the job is successfully completed, he returns the permit. We call it surrender of permit. That is to say that nobody is permitted to go to that work site again, because once you surrender, you cannot go back. Then you lift isolation, like we in the power sector, we call it, we lift isolation and probably try restoring the supply back. So the permit to work, it is an approval given based on the method statement or the procedure for that particular job, which must have been ensured that is in place, cross-checked and dotted before it is approved. So it is actually a way of making sure that there is total safety. We want to talk about total safety management. So after, I want to also say that once you are given that permit, you become the permit holder. You act as the safety supervisor of that job throughout the duration of the job, because you know all the things that have been put in place before you were given that permit. Then after the job is committed or completed, I mean, you return the paper back. They call it surrender, because it's a document, and it's a statutory document that can be used in court, like you have said, Mr. Wali Adegoke. So it is very important we know the essence of the permit to work. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Sylvester. We really appreciate that that good feedback. I think we do not have any question again. And this takes us to the end of today's training. We appreciate you. We value and respect everyone who has taken their time to join us today. We can see so many leaders on the call, Engineer Tiamiyu, Mr. Benjamin, Mr. James, Mr. Urume, Mr. Dadebo, Mr. Engineer Sitikot, Mrs. Otto Arian, Mr. Hazan Adisa, so many people, Mr. Karim Shitu, Mr. Emmanuel, Mrs. Onifade Olufmilayo, Mr. Sunday, Mr. Namdi, Mr. Oluwole, Mr. Tayo, so many, and I can't keep mentioning names. We appreciate every single person who has taken their time to join us today. Engineer Tokul Lawal, you are highly valued, you are highly respected. We appreciate you, we appreciate your presence. Thank you, sir, for coming, for making it a time with us today. Mr. Omolola Ayodele, Mr. Eric, Mr. N, Mr. Sony, everyone, thanks so much. We'll see you again next week when we invite one of our safety experts, process safety specific, who will be taking us on a process safety training. We hope we will see you again next week, Sunday, and we hope you're going to enjoy the section like you did today. Thank you all, and God bless you. We'll share the materials around. We'll share the link, the YouTube link for the recorded version. For those who could not make it to today's training, they can watch it live on YouTube, and we can also learn. So when we share the link across, please let us share across. Let us keep sharing our safety message. Let us keep sharing to people to learn from these trainings. Like we said, this training has been sponsored by Cordal Safety Consults for all your safety trainings and for your safety needs. So we would appreciate it if you can engage us for your trainings and for your safety consultancy and your general safety needs at every point in time. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your time. Good night, and God bless you. My name. Someone said I should put my name. My name is Wale Adegoke. HSE consultants, further safety consults. Yes, thank you.